Good morning, everyone. Myself, Shushma. I am your host for today. I welcome each and everyone for the 291st virtual webinar of Sadgun Sang. The topic for today is the critical need for governance, risk, compliance in AI. It shall be taken by Mr. Dominic Fernandez. Agenda for today. Virtual inauguration by Dr. Kataria, invoking the blessing of deity, introduction of the speaker, presentation by Mr. Dominic Fernandez, followed with question and answer session. About Sadgun Sang. Sadgun Sang conceived and led by Dr. Sundar Kataria, driven with a mission to elevate the quality, safety, and environmental awareness level of industry. Sadgun Sang is a series of educative, informative events aiming to illuminate professionals on possible solutions to current issues in industry and economy. About Dr. Kataria. He is a chairman and managing director at International Certification Services Private Limited. He has done mechanical engineering course from AMIE, honorary doctorate into business management. Experience is into nuclear RAPP. He started his career in building India's first nuclear power plant at Rawat Bata Kota, Rajasthan. Oil and gas EIL. He contributed in developing India's first oil and gas field at Bombay High since its inspection. DNV. He was head of industry and offshore development with DNV for 2 decades. ICS. He is a founder of first Indian conformity assessment and inspection body known as International Certification Services Private Limited, which is a provider of total quality solution under single umbrella with a wide spectrum of services. Lifetime Achievement Award of NACE Corcon. He has received several national and international awards. Now, I would request Dr. Kataria to virtually inaugurate today's session.
Shubham kurutvam kalyanam आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धि विनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
Please join us for the recitation of Gayatri Mantra. Introduction of the keynote speaker for today, Mr. Dominic Fernandez. He's a technical director at Eventus Technosol Private Limited, done MSc into IT, diploma in electronic engineering. Area of specialization and experience into critical IT security services provided to leading banks, NBFCs, government authorities, and manufacturing sector entities. Welcome you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sushma ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And also, I'd like to thank during the last year, with the last few years with AI, especially. The topic that I'm going to talk on is the critical need. It's a need of the hour, a critical need for compliance, risk, and governance, or governance, risk, and compliance, whichever order, it depends on the situation. In AI, let me share my presentation, start my presentation. Okay, before that, let me share my screen. Okay, just checking, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Just make
Very
it to full screen. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just switching it to full screen. Excellent.
Yes, sir. Done.
Yes. Now, I just like to ask, to start off with, how many of us in our respective organizations, I know that at the personal level, we are all using AI, with this tools like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Claude, everyone is using. Is there anyone who is not using these common tools at the personal level? You can type me. It just it's not a right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong answer over here. I'm trying to understand the kind of audience that we have. Okay. So for definite, most of us, whatever field we are, whether it is engineering, whether it is law, whether it is medicine, whether it is compliance, we have encountered, we have heard of AI, we have been affected by AI. And I think a significant experience with AI is the negative effects. We have seen large companies having workforce cuts, laying off people, because certain jobs, or the way those jobs are done now, they have become redundant. Yesterday, there was a headline, Microsoft is again going to have a cut in its workforce because they will be using that capital resources and investing in AI. So we will talk about everything. We will also talk, it's not only about danger, it's not only about the negativity. My main mission over here is to also show the way out. There is hope. There has always been hope for mankind. AI is one of the inventions. I would say it's an invention. It's not a discovery. It's an invention it's a making of humankind, where humans are teaching machines to think like humans. Let me repeat that. We are teaching we are teaching machines to think like humans. And that is where we need to have safeguards and controls in place. Because to a certain extent, these machines and artificial intelligence can replace certain thought processes which are repetitive, just like computing and information technology, when it first came in the 70s, changed the way that we work. So AI is also drastically changing the way that we work. But we need to have very clear safeguards in place. And that is what I'm talking about today. There is one school of thought. There is one thought process saying that do you know this this picture which I have displayed? This is the European traders coming and visiting the Mughal court at Delhi in 1609. They came as traders. And this relationship was supposed to be of mutual benefit, where we give and we take, we both grow. An exchange of ideas, goods, and business. What happened? We have seen that they came as traders, but then the country was colonized and there was exploitation. So there is a thought, there is a fear that just as this happened previously, we have not learned our lessons. And we are very happily welcoming these new colonization. Okay. So in January this year, there was a very big AI summit. I don't know if any of you attended that summit. And there were the very big names of AI over here in our country. Now, what I'm trying to say is that that is a fear among some people. It is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we don't need to repeat the mistakes of history. And our government is on the right track. There are advisories regarding AI published by our government. There are frameworks and recommendations that can be used to govern, to manage AI, especially the risks of AI. There are very well established frameworks. And as responsible leaders of industry, it is our duty to ensure that as we deploy AI in our organizations, as we adopt AI in our development, in our software development teams, we need to make very, very sure that governance, risk, and compliance are put in first. Eventually, our government will definitely come up with laws governing AI, and those laws will be strict laws, and they will be well defined. Just as we have the DPDP Act, which protects private data, Digital Private Data Protection Act of India, which will be now next year in May, it will be enforced and mandatory. And the government has given us time to put in place protective measures for the protection of privacy of data, protection of private data. Come May 27, those who are found violating provisions of that act will be prosecuted. Fines range from 50 crores to 250 crore rupees. That is the DPDP. So what I'm saying is there's going to be something similar. There has to be something similar for AI regulation. But till that time, it is in our interest to follow the best practice frameworks. I'm going to talk about those frameworks. But first, I will also give you a picture of what are the risks of AI. So every major technology revolution that we look at, whether it was printing, there was a time 500 of years back, 600 to 700 years back, where human beings would manually write copies. There would be a master manuscript, and there would be people who would just be writing. They would take months to finish one book. What happened? Printing came, and the printing press came. With that, Was anybody afraid that those people lost their jobs? The people who used to write and make copies of books, that they lost their job? No. Knowledge spread even more faster. Even there was more progress. Knowledge could be shared easily. Books, textbooks could be printed. Schools could flourish and thrive. Colleges and universities could flourish and thrive. What happened with the invention of the wheel? Where previously we used animals only, we could now travel faster with wheels. And then there was, before that, there was fire. Fire was a discovery. In fact, between the Stone Age, the discovery of fire was, we maybe are not able to understand how it revolutionized human life. When man discovered that he could create fire, he could manage fire, he could use fire. And before he realized that he could use fire and manage fire, he also learned that fire is highly destructive if left out of control. And that is how it is with AI. AI is a very powerful phenomenon where we are creating artificial intelligence. It is the first ever technology that actually gives the power of decision making, of thinking to machines. So we have traditional, a little bit more about AI. We have traditional AI and we have agentic AI. So traditional AI could be the ones that just answer questions and give us suggestions, the ones that we use. But agentic AI is a bit more sophisticated. It makes actual decisions. It controls workflows and drastically changes the way our organization operates. So why do people love AI? Executives love AI. Productivity, the work that would have taken a few days is completed in a few hours. And obviously, when something that takes days is completed in hours, there's a drastic reduction in cost. Things can be automated using agentic AI. Workflows can be automated. Decisions are faster. Around the clock. And with further sophistication of these AI algorithms, you can have even more personalized services to a greater extent than what would have been there, because human beings have their limitations. So that is the good part. Now, what happened? Does anybody know about the Alibaba incident? So there was a project known as the Rome project. There was an AI model developed. It was a research AI agent at Alibaba's data center. Everybody has heard of Alibaba. Alibaba is a cloud service provider like AWS or like Azure, but of course not in the league of AWS. But still it is there. It is also a marketing portal, e-commerce portal. So they had an AI agent as part of their Rome experiment. It is 3 a.m. in the morning. And this AI agent did something that nobody had asked it to do. Please remember, it did something that nobody asked it to do. It bypassed all security boundaries. It created a reverse SSH tunnel and started cryptocurrency mining. It started using GPU resources, all the resources that were there in the data center for cryptocurrency mining. The question is, if AI can do this in a lab, what stops it from doing anything else in a bank, in an insurance company, or in critical infrastructure, wherever people might deploy AI? What about medicine? In the medical scenario, medical sector? So you can check this out. This is, you'll find some things like this in the news, where the Alibaba's AI agent actually mined crypto without permission, without being told to do. So this incident tells us why we need guardrails, why we need safeguards, why we need human in the loop always. Human in the loop always. You will hear more about this from time to time. Certain decisions which are related to the welfare, well-being of a human life, those decisions have to have human intervention. When they did the root cause analysis of this Alibaba incident, it was found that basically what happened was reinforcement learning. So there is a loop that is created where AI keeps learning on a continuous basis. So when it discovered that it was basically, it did not have malicious intent. There was no malicious intent. The intention was not malicious. It was basically more efficiency. It was trying to optimize. Coming to the usual cyber crime, we have to remember that just as we are using AI for productivity, increasing productivity, and positive uses of AI, we have our threat actors, our cyber criminals, who are also leveraging the power of AI to write more powerful and efficient malicious scripts, malware, to automate discovery of vulnerabilities faster and more efficiently, to create sophisticated email templates to entrap and phish users using phishing emails. Very dangerous to generate deep fakes. There have been instances of video calls, video conferences, where 2 or 3 board directors have whose images have been created, and you might get a video call from a cyber criminal where that video call has 3 of your directors who are discussing something and asking you to take a decision to make a payment. It is that sophisticated, and it is fake. They have taken video footage of your directors from social media, from public domain, and morphed them. The voices can be recreated. So now the scaling is dangerous. Voice cloning, image cloning. The question is, can you trust what you see and hear? So that is intentional malicious acts, which can be targeted to a critical infrastructure, but also at times AI that is not regulated can mess up with our processes. There is this danger of AI data centers. They are huge. They consume large amounts of electricity, large amount of compute, diverting. Like there is an example. I was talking to one of the OEM vendors who make backup systems. And they use compute hardware, servers, industry grade servers. So I was talking to him a few weeks back, and he said that the prices of hardware, compute hardware, has tripled in the last 6 months. It has gone 3 times. Mostly not because of the Hormuz blockage. Okay, that was one thing. But mostly because AI compute, all silicon is being diverted to AI compute. Now, having said that this is a threat, governments will need to regulate at a very high macro level what kind of data centers to have, where to locate them. There is also hope over here. Samsung is having data center on a ship, on a container ship, which is at sea. So the cooling is probably they use sea water, or you can have data centers, in the Arctic areas. They already have them where they're using natural air for cooling. You just pull in the natural air, which is zero most of the time or below zero half of the year. Or there is the Tesla company, the owner of Tesla company, who has Starlink satellites, and he is building compute within those satellites. And those satellites are powered by solar power. So they don't need big power plants. They don't need billions of dollars of investment in data centers and power for data centers. They already are using free and abundant power, and cooling will also not be an issue in space. And anyway, they are communicating with Earth. So to and fro, communication is there. So innovation is always will be the hope for us. So now from chaos to order. Now that I have spoken of all the risks, many of these risks that are there inherent in AI and the way we use AI, there are a number of global AI governance frameworks. There is the European Union AI Act, which is a legislation, I think, and it is the first one ever globally. And it is a pretty clear and well-defined act or piece of legislation that clearly specifies what you can do and what you cannot do. It prohibits certain things very clearly. And I would encourage you to actually, for those of you who are responsible and thought leaders in your respective organizations, I would highly recommend that you download and read it. It is quite a number of pages, but it gives you an idea of what maybe other countries, as we legislate and pass laws to regulate AI, we will be mostly based on that and adding to that. Just as we had GDPR, the European Union was the first to come out with GDPR. So the rest of the countries have more or less modeled their privacy laws on GDPR. For the rest of us, rest of the countries in the globe, we need to understand two things. That AI is all about identifying, managing risks. Identifying and managing risks. And how do we manage risks? Is by having a proper AI management system in place. AI risk management is so crucial and so critical that the NIST, I think everybody over here has heard of NIST. It is an American Institute of Standards, Safety and Standards, especially security, IT security. So NIST has other cybersecurity frameworks, the 800-53. So there is something known as a risk management framework, which is recommended for, especially for US entities. It is voluntary. And then there is the international standard for AI management systems. If you have AI, you are using AI significantly in your organization, it is highly recommended that you establish the AI management system as per the ISO 42001 provisions. So just like ISO 9001, ISO 27001, all of the other ISO standards, the ISO 42001 standard is very clear about how we set up an AI management system. How do we continuously monitor, improve, and control AI? Especially for most of us who have been working with ISO, it is pretty easier to follow 42001. I will talk more in detail about each of these as we go on. So you will hear a lot of people talking about AI ethics. It has become a bit of a, I don't know, it has become a bit of a fad. It has become very stylish to talk about AI ethics. And there are people who are offering courses on AI ethics. However, I want to say one thing, is that if you seriously adhere to and adopt ISO 42001, and if you want to go still further into risk management, you also study the NIST risk management framework. By the way, even that is downloadable from the NIST website. You can Google and download it. And it is pretty, there's an exhaustive checklist of hundreds of points of the checklist. It will cover, both of these will cover anything and everything related to ethics. If you are careful about AI, you put in place processes and controls for AI, you will automatically be using AI in an ethical manner. The 4 pillars of AI ethics are fairness, transparency, accountability, and safety and privacy. Let me explain a bit more about each of those. So there are AI models. Organizations set up AI models. Now, financial institutions and banks, they get applications for loans and mortgages. And they get applications in hundreds and thousands for loans. Now, the earlier process was that you have a number of people who go through these applications. The applications have a checklist. And then manually, there is a evaluation that is done. Can this loan be disbursed or no? What is the creditworthiness of the person who is applying for the loan? What is the credit rating? But with the digitization of so many things, if I am applying for a loan, what type of loan? Is the personal loan? It's a business loan, industrial, a kind of loan for expansion, what kind of loan it is, my credit rating is already known to the financial sector. A lot of things about me are already known. So this is a good set. This is a very suitable kind of application where AI has been deployed. Bots are deployed. You get thousands of applications for loans per day, and the bank, then the bot goes through the applications and then can take the decision to accept the application for loan, to approve the loan, or to reject the loan. Now it has been found that something known as bias. See, because when you build an AI model, when you build that bot or whatever that is going to process loans, you need to first train it. Remember, we are teaching machines, we are training machines to think like human beings. We are teaching machines, so we have to train them, and we train them using data, giving data that, okay, these parameters, when there is an application for loan, there are these 50 parameters that need to be considered. This person's past history in loans, his past defaults, his credit worthiness, credit rating, his net worth, and so many other things which can be checked. Now it has been found that sometimes bias can enter. How does bias enter? Because if I'm training the AI model, much of my biases can affect. I may feed it with certain type of data. And it has found that in the US, it was found that certain sectors, certain sections, certain communities were unfairly, there was a large number of rejection of their loan application. It was found to be unfair when research was done. Amazon had to face a legal lawsuit because their recruitment HR robot you need to continuously keep identifying risks, documenting the risks, measuring the performance of AI to check for bias, and putting in corrective measures. And all of this can be done only when the management, the executive of the company says that we need to put in. Without their buy-in, we will just be talking about AI. So the board has to very strongly come out with AI governance. Many of the banks and financial institutions, because of this craze of AI, have made a lot of investments in them. But what exactly are the teams doing? What kind of governance and transparency is there for the amount of funds that have been invested? What are the outcomes? There has to be very regular appraisals of the outcomes. There has to be transparency and explainability. When an AI model has taken this decision, we have to be able to explain, if required, how and why it has taken this decision. One of the important questions to be asked in the organization is, who is responsible ultimately for the decisions made by AI? The answer is it is the organization. It is the board. The organization, the company will need to pay the fines and face the penalty for any wrongdoing by AI. And that is the reason there have to be regular, periodic audits of AI systems where accountability and ownership is determined during the development phase itself. So the developers are held accountable during the development phase, because once it is deployed, it becomes the company's responsibility. Right from the beginning, the adoption of AI, I have seen in organizations that they have started using AI, but when I ask them, show me a document which shows that your management has approved use of AI in your development, they don't have the document. It was verbal. They did not have a plan for AI. They did not have a plan for risk management, regular, periodic risk management of AI. This is an important slide. This shows basically, it is a simple slide which gives us a bit more about all our frameworks and what they are all about. So when we talk about ISO 42001, it is basically it is the most, I feel that it is the most inclusive and most expansive framework. It talks about an AI management system. So whether it is identifying, continuous identification and management of risk, whether it is governance, governance includes AI ethics, it includes transparency, fairness, AI security, protection of privacy, and continuous improvement. Then we come to NIST, which is basically mapping, understanding, documenting, measuring the risk, and managing the risks. It is a good to have framework. And then we have the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act, which I have spoken of earlier. This is how it differs from the previous two frameworks, is that it is not just a framework, but it is a legal regulation. It is a legislation, and it is mandatory. It is binding on all entities that operate in the European Union. It also talks about classifying risks, about complying, about transparency, accountability, about privacy. It talks of all of those things. And then we come to our own country, where the Ministry of Electronics and IT has published a set of responsible AI guidelines, which is, of course, in line with all of these three standards and frameworks. There is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, which also has AI principles. And this also talks about best practices. These are more in detail. So the ISO 42001 talks about establishing AI management systems. Your organization needs to have an AI policy. It's a policy document. It needs to have a risk assessment protocol in place. And AI, most organizations have risk committees, risk management committees, where they periodically assess the risks and take decisions on how to mitigate those risks. It talks of roles and responsibilities, just as our normal ISO standards have. Who is responsible for what? When we are having AI tools, the people who supply us AI tools, the people who supply us AI solutions, how do we govern those? How do we identify, manage risks over there? How do we evaluate AI? How do we put in place a regular system for internal audits of AI? That is the most important thing. A regular system for regular internal audits of the AI and continuous improvement. NIST risk management framework again talks of, it is more focused on identifying, mapping, measuring, and managing risks and bias detection. Whereas, as I mentioned, the EU AI Act is just a piece of legislation which covers, it is very strict about what you can do and what you cannot do. To simplify things, there are some common principles across all of the frameworks that we use. There is accountability, where we need to be accountable at the end of the day. Who is accountable for what AI has done? We need to have transparency on how AI comes to its decisions. And then a very important part of human in the loop. This will always be there for critical decisions. But also throughout, there has to be human oversight. A question to ask an organization is, who is responsible for your AI? Who is the AI officer? So just as we now have the CIO, Chief Information Officer, we have the CTO, we have the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO. We have a Data Protection Officer, DPO. The DPDP Act has mandated for organizations that have significant handling and data processing that they need to have a data protection officer, designated data protection officer. So they will need to be AI regulation officers. We need to understand how much of private data goes into our AI models, how much of personal data goes into our AI models, and what precautions are we taking to protect the privacy of that data. As I mentioned earlier, I spoke about fairness and how there could be bias in an AI's mode of operation, which can affect fairness. It can cause discrimination. There is security. We just spoke about, we saw the incident of the Alibaba Rome incident, where the AI module, the AI model, the agent actually broke out of its security confines and started mining cryptocurrency. Apart from that, there is also a methodology where red teaming, VAPT, needs to be done regularly on AI systems, the basic security of the AI system, because you can find instances where you have a model, AI model running, agent running, but it was not secure enough. AI bot of a bank, you can have SQL injection into that chat, and that chatbot can be used to compromise the bank's infrastructure if there are some loopholes in that itself. So the AI systems need to be subject to security, vulnerability evaluation. And apart from that, continuous monitoring and risk evaluation. So this is there across all frameworks. Now let's look at a typical AI development life cycle. In any organization, when we have AI, when there's a thought, first of all, there is a thought that the board or the leaders think that we need to deploy AI in certain processes. So there has to be business. So there is planning. Under planning, we have business justification. That this deployment of AI, adoption of AI within these processes will definitely lead to time savings in time, drastic savings in time, cost. But at the same time, you also need to do a proper risk assessment. And at the same time, we have in mind what are the regulations, what are the legal regulations saying. Now, in our country, there may not be an official AI legal legislation. However, there are other laws, the privacy laws, there is the IT Act 2000, and definitely we need to take into consideration these factors that we are not violating any of these existing laws while we are deploying AI. We need to really have something in place, an ISO management, ISO 42001 AI management system, which will help us make sure that these phases are streamlined. The other stage, the next stage is data collection. When we are training our AI model, we need to make sure that the data that we have got, whether it is personal data, we have recorded consent of the owner of that data. We need to make sure of the quality of the data, because the quality of the data can decide how biased the model gets. We need to make sure that if there is certain private data, personal data, it needs to be anonymized or masked. And we make sure that we get data only what is needed, essential, and we don't get unnecessary data. Moving on to the next phase of the AI development cycle, it's the development of the model itself. The important things we need to make sure are, the coding, that the coding itself is secure. There are so many tools available now to make sure that we do secure coding, tools like SonarQube. There is bias testing. There is explainability, version control. Part of these are general software development best practices. Then there is validation, where I spoke about red team testing. People can try to hack into your AI bot. And there is a very interesting phenomenon these days in AI models, which is called hallucination. So AI models tend to, if you push them without further, enriching their training, they will make up answers. They will start making up false answers, creating false replies, which are like hallucination. We always need to make very, very sure that there is human in the loop always. During deployment, we need to make sure when deploying an AI model that we have the documented approval of management, that management has gone through all the stages, has understood all the risks that are there, mitigated risks, and accepted certain risks. Need to make sure that we have proper logging, audit logs, and audit controls in place, change management. And during operations of AI, we need to make sure that we have continuous monitoring. Why is continuous monitoring so important? Because in AI, there is going to be drift, there is going to be bias, because the input data that keeps coming changes. And if the data is biased or is not clean data, there can be deviations which can affect the quality of work. And regular compliance reviews. When disposing of an AI model or decommissioning an AI model, we have to be very careful about the process that we have followed. The data for training needs to be very comprehensively deleted. All access needs to be reviewed and revoked. And very importantly, the lessons that we learned from the lifetime of this particular AI model needs to be documented. So what do we do as organizations? What do we need to do to be safe, to be compliant? We start with governance. We establish an AI governance committee. We define the ownership, responsibility, and accountability for these various life cycles, various stages in the life cycle of AI. We need to maintain a very detailed and clear AI inventory, all the tools that go in, all the libraries, all the things that have been developed. And we need to classify AI systems. We need to put in place risk management, regular risk management schedule meetings. Need to conduct privacy impact assessments. For those of you who have learned about data privacy, GDPR, PDPA, or DPDP, you must have heard of this exercise known as privacy impact assessment, where all the departments are audited and checked for what kind of private data is stored with them. And very importantly is we need to maintain an AI risk register. In other ISO, for example, ISO 27001, there is a provision for maintaining a risk register for security vulnerabilities and in general other risks. So over here, AI risk register is a very crucial document. As far as security of AI is concerned, making sure that the API is used as secure. There are API security solutions. There is AI data encryption. There is something known as zero trust architecture, is trust no one, trust nothing, and verify everything. That means even though I have a login to log into ICS environment, but that does not automatically give me access to every application and every server. I will be able to access only the applications and only the database to which I have been given access. And even over there, once I log in, I will be monitored for which files I access, which processes I run. And if there is anything abnormal or suspicious, then my sessions are terminated. So zero trust architecture is something that we have been talking about for the last 5 years. And continuous vulnerability management. As far as compliance is concerned, we have to keep monitoring from a point of view of regulations. What are the government regulations? This is a checklist. Verify that we are aligning with this, we are adhering to this, we are compliant. We need to regularly review our AI policy document. This is a document that we need to review right from the management level. We have vendor due diligence. We have spoken about this before as part of our third-party risk management. And very crucial, to have external and independent AI audits. In short, if we talk about what is responsible AI, and some people call it AI ethics, it is having human in the loop for critical decisions, continuously monitoring for bias, mandatorily having explainability for every decision. We have transparency to users. We should be able to explain if a person's loan has been rejected. We need to be able to give a proper explanation to the user. We need to have a review board, which can be the risk management committee. And we have to have a very strong process for incident reporting and incident handling in AI, just like what happened for the Alibaba case. And just as with other standards where we have for cybersecurity, we need to have continuous employee awareness training. So for AI also, we need to sensitize and educate the main users of AI in our organization about these rules and regulations that they need to adhere to. So why do we need all of this? And it's all because of building trust with customers, regulators, employees, and stakeholders. The main motive, the end result is to build, enhance, and maintain trust. Nobody will trust us when they find out that our AI systems or the AI that we have embedded into our systems have bugs, flaws, and risks. We will suffer penalties if there are wrong decisions, things gone wrong, so on and so forth. So I think this is where I will, there is one last slide, is that this is generally the concern these days, is that AI, if allowed to go out of control, there is an existential risk where highly advanced AI systems will become autonomous and act in ways that we cannot control. So this is what is at stake. It could be our existence at stake. And reducing this risk early needs us to start now and make sure that we put in place controls for AI. So I think that's it from my side. And if there are any questions.
Requesting everyone to put the question in the chat box so you can directly ask. Unmute yourself and ask question, please.
Or if you feel that you can, you can also mail it to Sushma ji and ICS, and I can give you replies. So that's not an issue.
Yes, okay. No questions? Then we'll move ahead. Sir, if any questions come, I'll let you know, sir.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm done with this. Yeah, we can proceed with the next stage.
Thank you so much, sir, for today's presentation.
Thank you, sir.
ICS is pleased to provide you all its research and development. We have books available with us, Integrated Management System, Excellence in Education Management, ISO Made Easy in Gujarati, Marathi, Telugu, and Hindi. Our recent publications is Urja for thermal, oil and gas, nuclear sectors, Jung Se Jung Tak, Fight with Rust, Corrosion Causes and its Mitigation. If anyone wants to purchase, you can contact the below. Feedback form. Please register on www.sadgunsang.org and go in your login and give your feedback. Thank you for being a part of today's Sadgunsang.